Hey everybody, I hope each of you are doing well with the remnants of Hurricane Delta and that everybody is staying safe and out of the storm's destruction area, especially with most of us being here located in southeast Louisiana. Um, just some the two topics that we'll be focusing on in this module in this upcoming week are consumer strategies as well as home buying. And so with this video, I'm going to primarily focus though on home buying because it's pretty critical for several individuals throughout the country. And I think you'll notice some aspects as you read this week, and maybe even some of the aspects within this video that you realize how housing decisions are made and what goes into affecting them, good and bad. And so, the first thing I want to touch on is if you are going to purchase a home, what I highly recommend you have is a what they call a buyer's inspection checklist. And what this checklist does is it ensures that you go down the line and spells out for you different areas in and surrounding the home that you have your independent inspector check out with you present. For instance, uh, interior wise or things structural, such as the foundation. Um, these are things where, do they have a lot of trees in close proximity to the foundation of the home? Um, is the foundation shifted? Is it sound structurally speaking? These are things you want to know well in advance before you sink a lot of money into a home that you'll be in for the foreseeable future. Some of the other items would be certainly your flooring. Is it wood? Is it tile? Is it carpet? These things can affect the price. Obviously, if it's hardwood flooring, is it laminate? Is it actual real wood? These are things that you can negotiate on pricing. Um, Exterior wise, you want to look for things such as the siding of the house. Is it a siding? Is it wood? Is it brick? Um, you want to look at the driveway. Going back to the structure, if you have a lot of trees, a telltale sign is if there's a lot of splits in that driveway, then the structure might be off. It might not be on solid foundation. Just some hints when you're out looking at different home options. You want to look at windows. How many windows do they have? Do they have shutters? Um, Obviously, you want to look at plumbing, electrical. You also want to look at heating and cooling elements. Where's the water heater located? Personally, a lot of new homes, what they're doing is having the builders actually carve out an area in the attic to put the hot water heater. I'm not a big fan of that because it can be painstaking to replace that if it goes out. More or less, I am of the viewpoint that the hot water heater needs to be outside in a separate area. Number one, for ease of access. Number two, you don't have to worry about something flooding in your attic. Um, that could just be an enormous mess, and I don't understand why they started putting those hot water heaters in attics. So certainly, it's something you want to be cognizant of in the purchasing of a home. Um, so the housing market is something that gets talked about repeatedly um, on a local stage, but also on a national stage. And so, what can affect that? Well, anything and everything, interest rates, mortgage rates, but personally, unemployment, but also natural disasters can affect the housing market. What do I mean by this? Well, look recently, 2020 has offered us the best example of this. There's several people that have been laid off from their positions that they were in early 2020. And so, as unemployment climbs and increases, the housing market will decrease. There's more houses up for sale, but there's not as many individuals that are willing to take on those risks with their own uncertainty at play. But also natural disaster. What about the pandemic? Well, how about COVID? How does this affect the housing market? Um, All these things can factor into and have an effect on the housing market presently and into the future. So, one of the biggest questions in regards to home buying um, is the age old question of should you rent or should you buy? And so, what I would urge each of you is look at your own situation. Everybody's situation is unique. What works for one person is not entirely the same for another person. And so I can make the case why renting is best for some people, and I can ultimately make the contrasting viewpoint that buying and purchasing and owning is better for others. And so certainly you want to pay attention to what are the main ingredients and the main pros and cons of renting versus owning, and then relate them to your specific situation. Everybody's time and their horizon to different goals are different. That's one aspect that goes into the rent versus owning conundrum. So there's different attributes that you need to pay attention to when you're looking to purchase a home. Certainly, one of them is how much house can you afford? Everybody wants a fancy home, everybody wants a big house. That's not always what is needed, though. You have to look at how much income you have, how much debt do you have, um, how many bedrooms do you need, how many bathrooms do you need? Do you need a second story? Do you need an office space? Do you want um, a basement area or a an area where you can use for storage, or quote unquote, if you're a guy, the proverbial man cave. All these things factor into it. The square foot of the house. Um, do you want, going back to some of those interior and exterior items? Do you want real hardwood? Do you want cypress? Um, or are you okay with laminate? All these things affect the attributes of a house, affect the cost of it, and ultimately what you can afford. Um, you don't want to live beyond your means. You want to know, hey, this is my income amount, this is what I can afford. That way you don't get in over your head. Um, Certainly, other attributes that you want to consider also is, do you need a garage? If so, how many? Do you need a two-car garage? Do you want a two-car garage with a smaller third one for utilities, such as your lawnmower, if you have a golf cart, if you have a motorcycle, things of that nature? Do you want a pool? Do you want a privacy area such as a fenced-in yard? If you want a fenced-in yard, do you want it with lumber? Do you want it to be wrought iron? Do you want it to be brick? Obviously, all of these things raise the prices and affect the pricing of the house in and of itself. Um, when you go to purchase your home, some things to be aware of are pricing options and interest rates. And so, a lot of times you'll see conventional and 20%. These are synonymous with one another. Most often of the case is a conventional mortgage will require 20% down payment. And so, obviously, though, not everybody can afford to bring 20% down to their closing. Um, so you want to research what they have out there. And so oftentimes what you'll come across is that you can put 5% down. But they also have great rates for veterans. They have first time home buyers options available, FDA, things of these nature that can be of assistance to you. And a lot of times, your first time home buyers, they will allow you to go as low as 3% down on a lot of purchases. So, those are things to be cognizant of when you're researching home pricing, when you're researching buying options and loan options. And obviously, at the loan closing, some things to be aware of are your appraisal cost and title insurance. Um, First off, title insurance, you might want to purchase this because you want to make sure the title is free and clear. You don't want to, especially if it's a home that was in a previous homeowner's name, You don't want to get to the closing and then it come up with where the title's not free and clear, that it's still under previous owner's name. So obviously, title insurance would be wanting, you'd want to purchase that to make sure that you have the title now in your name. Um, and then appraisal costs. You want to make sure all these things are spelled out prior to the date of closing. Who's going to pay for the closing costs? Will it be you, the buyer, or will it be the seller? Obviously, these things are always up for negotiation, as they always are in home buying options. Things to consider might be, well, the seller is leaving a deep freeze, a refrigerator, and a washer and dryer um, with the with the intent that the purchaser will pay for the closing cost. And oftentimes you want to compare what the closing cost will be compared to, based on the appraisal, compared to what those other units would cost you to purchase brand new. And so there's always some give and take in regards to these things. So those are things to be aware of also. Certainly, home buying is key for a lot of people in this country. It's a big step. Um, is the American dream for a lot of people. And so, if you have any questions throughout this chapter, consumer strategies, and specifically home buying, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad um, to answer those questions for you. Um, Personally, we started off, my wife and myself, we started off renting for several years. And then as our goals kind of became more narrowed and defined, is when we ultimately decided to identify an area which we wanted to live. And so we sought to purchase our first starter home. And then even recently, so we've been in our first home now. Um, February will make 6 years. But in that same time frame, we've also saved up quite a bit of assets um, and monies. And in that same time frame, we've also purchased a lot where we hope to build our future home on. And so those are things that you want to be cognizant of. Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Where do you want to be? Where do you ultimately want to live for the rest of your life? Um, so obviously, again, if you have any questions during this chapter in this module, please reach out to me. You guys have my email. I'll be available all week. Um, Hope you guys again are staying safe, especially amidst us opening phase 3 back up in the state, but also dealing with the remnants of Hurricane Delta. You guys have a great week. Stay safe.